Well, hi, I'm Randy Cross, and this is the Randy Cross Podcast. Welcome to Season 6, Episode 3. This is just going to be an interview today, but I think it's going to be something you're going to enjoy. I'm going to be talking with Chad Prather. You may know who he is, and if you are familiar with his work, you're one of the millions, literally millions, that have seen his videos, his YouTubes, his podcasts, his TV show. He's had some amazing success over the last couple of years. He's got a band, he's got a comedy tour. Like I said, he's got a podcast. He's got a lot of different things going on. He has a wonderful sense of humor. He does observational humor with a little bit of a country twang to it, you might say. Kind of a New World or a New Age Will Rogers kind of thing. He brings it back to Washington and politics and all that on a pretty regular basis. But he does it all with a kind of a smile on his face. And it's fun. He's a really, really, really good man. And he's actually going to expand his repertoire a little bit here pretty quick. And that's into acting. He starred in a recent project that me and others were involved in called Heroes Among Us. And let's run a little preview right now before we bring in Chad.
Sometimes the training can be more stressful than the mission. This has been a long journey. I'm out in a few days, 10 and a wake up to be exact, and leaving this culture, the military culture, one that I adopted in 1999 when I enlisted. It feels like one day you're on base or knee deep in training, and then all of a sudden you're carrying a cooler of soda to your kid's soccer game. Our country's first commander-in-chief once said, "To be prepared for war is one of the most effectual means of preserving peace." I'm prepared for war. I'm not prepared for my civilian home. There's no manual for this.
All right, hope you enjoyed that. That's why they call it a tease. It's not real long, and there's not a whole lot of info, but hopefully you can look for that somewhere near you coming really soon. So right now, let's be joined by Chad Prather. All right, now as promised, I'm joined by Chad Prather. I already talked about the different hats he wears. Obviously, I was just going to intro and make mention of where he kind of grew up in Georgia. He's also an Atlanta Braves fan. Chad, welcome.
Hey, Randy, it's good to see you, man. Good to hear your voice.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. It's good to see you. I mean, I can't believe how many different things you've been doing. I mean, our association, I just ran a little bit of that teaser on the Heroes Among Us, but, I first found you through Unapologetically Southern or Unapologetically Country. And your videos you used to do out of your pickup truck with your, what was that, a black lab? Or
it was a shepherd. It was my shepherd, yeah.
A shepherd. I just remembered you from that, and just the amount of things you've done now. How many hours in a day do you need with everything you're doing?
I've got some guys that work with me now, and I'm up normally about 4:30 or 5 o'clock every morning going, just because the older I get, the less I sleep, I think. They are every day. I try to make sure that they feel the hustle coming from me. I try to out hustle them as much as I can. So I keep a lot of things going on, Randy. I think it's just my ADD or whatever. Maybe I'm not properly medicated. I'm always on to the next thing. I get bored real easily. I always tell people I'm like a goose. I wake up in a new world every day. And so if there's no variety, I'm just bored with it. So I'm always doing something else. And who knows, maybe my downfall, but I enjoy all the things I get to do.
Now you've done the comedy for a while. I mean, great observational comedy. I mean, you're fun to listen to. That's been fantastic. Now, do you mix in now you and the Ragamuffins? Is that like with the comedy? Is that a separate tour?
Well, the evolution of that was this. I was doing comedy, and then I'm kind of a jackleg guitar player, and I like to write funny songs. And so I started with the stand-up comedy, adding in a kind of 30 minutes of music to my comedy shows. And then during COVID, when everything was shut down, all of my musician friends weren't traveling and touring. And so I said, guys, let's get together and let's play a little music and put it on social media. So that kind of evolved into taking that out on the road. So now we do a mix of comedy and music and a ton of variety on stage. And so I'm sort of they always call me a modern day Will Rogers, and I just kind of call it back to those old Will Rogers Follies shows. It's a different concept, but yeah, the Ragamuffins, they're out there with us. I ran for office in Texas, which we may get into, I don't know, but so I kind of took a break from touring. So we're just kind of ramping back up now and going out and doing some shows again and starting to get busy again. It's a lot of fun. I love being on stage in front of people. That audience interaction, there's nothing like it.
Well, like we say, you do a lot of things, and you just mentioned you had an attempted dabble. Ran for governor down there in the great state of Texas. How was that experience in general? Was it kind of was the education worth your time?
It was the worst, best experience of my life. I wouldn't trade it for anything. From what I learned, from what I saw, from what I experienced, from what I think we accomplished, when we started, I think a lot of people thought it was a joke. The first few days of it, I thought it was a joke too. But by the end of it, it was a long campaign. It was 19 months. But I have no political background other than political media and political humor. I had no political clout. No donors owed me anything. There was no hooks in me. There were no special interests or consultants that were pushing me to run for office. I got a conviction, and I did it because I wanted to make a difference and use my platform to make my voice be heard on some things that I believe in. And so by the end of it, people were taking me seriously. For what it was a very fair run. We were up against millions and millions of dollars in opponents in the primary. But, we were able to kind of push Governor Greg Abbott in a certain direction that I think was very positive. And I hope we can continue to keep that pressure up in this campaign year. So I wouldn't trade it for anything, but man, people ask me all the time, they're like, you've got to run again. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have to go through a lot of therapy first before I jump back into that. And fortunately, I've got a few years to think about it. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, have you found it's kind of sharpened a lot that you do when it does come to your comedy, when it comes to the political side?
Well, the problem is you see so many nasty things that you just don't really feel like being funny. That's the hard part. Now, I will say this, Randy, I gave the best damn campaign speeches of anybody out there. It was, tons of people were, they'd come to the events and the forums and the debates, and they would say, we'll tell you, you're a refreshing breath of air because at least it's not stuffy political stuff. You are actually entertaining and you make a point. It broadened, it gave me a whole new audience in a big way. It kind of broadened my horizons there. But in the grand scheme of things, it educated me. I thought I knew a lot going into it, but man, I learned a ton of stuff by the end of that thing. It was really a wild ride. And I'm telling you, U.S. politics, I don't have to tell you this, Randy, it's nasty. It's disgusting. Politics in general is bad, but we are in such bad shape across the board. But I don't care if you consider yourself left, right, Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, whatever you are, it's a mess.
Yeah. I just met a very encouraging gentleman up in Montana, or two of them actually, last week. Ron DeSantis and Ryan Zinke.
Yeah.
Who are both Republicans, as it turns out, and they sort of I don't know. They gave me some faith there's some hope out there, because the rest of it's, honestly, believing anything that's coming out of that city, you just can't believe anything. I mean, nothing.
Yeah.
And the fact, I mean, the first thing I usually ask people about politics when they start, especially today, is, okay, and my friends get tired of hearing this, but I'll go, all right, so that $5 to $7 trillion you just printed, how is that not supposed to F everything up?
Right. Yeah.
Can you just give me a clue?
Yeah. My perspective is I always said that I would never join a political party because I want to be, free to follow my convictions. I had to run as a Republican in the primary in order to challenge Greg Abbott. So I did that. Now, I say that, and everybody knows me. They know I'm a conservative. I'm a small government guy. I don't care if you have a D or an R by your name. If you're big government, to me, you're the enemy of the people. You're not for the people. You're not by the people. Certainly not with the people. So if you're big government, unfortunately, everything's gotten so big. You talk about printing money. I mean, we're heading in a direction that's so wild right now where, the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab says you'll own nothing and be happy. They're printing money. They actually love deficits. They love debt. They don't mind it. This new modern monetary theory that they're pushing doesn't make any sense. They have currency with no backing. It's controlled by a centralized government. These are scary times that we're not only living in, but really heading into, that if we don't get some control on this, you mentioned the two gentlemen, certainly Ron DeSantis as governor of Florida, he's made a huge difference. I was just with Kristi Noem last week. She in South Dakota has made a big difference of people who just say, we're not going to play according to the political game. We're going to speak our convictions, and we're going to hold true to what we campaigned on. And I hope we can get more of that. I heard Newt Gingrich talking just this morning. He's got a new book out. It just talking about the fact that hopefully as conservatives, we've gotten better at sort of recruiting the younger generation, because that's historically has not been true. It's been old and stuffy, but I hope that he's right in that we've brought some younger generation with small government values along, and it won't be your granddad's Republican Party, so to speak.
How are you with your crowds? How do they sort of break down? And I'm sure you don't say, if you don't agree with me, don't come. That's not the nature of that business. I mean, but how do you find your crowds?
I just kind of let the chips fall where they may. People look at me as a pot stirrer. I don't see myself that way. Just the nature of what I do with opinion media and humor media, doing the show on Blaze TV, we kind of have to rile people up a little bit. That's the nature of the job, to make fun of it and be a little bit shocking from time to time. But I hope that I offer something for everybody. My big thing, my entire life, I'll be 50 years old here in a couple of months. And my entire life, I've always said we've got to think critically, and we've gotten away from that. We've lost the idea of complexity of thought. And I want people to, even when I'm doing jokes and doing humor or music, I want people to walk away going, he did make a point. He did make a point. So, when it comes to comedy, I'll make fun of everybody. I'm not afraid of cancel culture. I don't care if you're gay, straight, black, white, fat, skinny, male, female, trans. I don't care. I'm going to make fun of all of you because I'm going to make fun of myself. And I think that's the nature of comedy. But when it comes to political humor, I try to still say, look, we're on this plane together. We should try to get along as best we can. There are a few of them. There's a few non sequiturs that I just can't compromise on. But for the most part, we got to figure out to find some common ground. Unfortunately, this. Anybody that's honest knows that the division in America right now is so polarized. I don't know if we'll ever get to come back together. I have my serious doubts. But all you can do is try.
Oh yeah. Hey, you touch on a lot of this in your show, the Chad Prather show on Watch Chad channel there on YouTube. How do you put that together? How do you put your guest list together? It's a pretty eclectic group. It looks like a couple of times early on, I laughed because knowing you a little bit and your humor. I almost pictured you, some guy walking by the studio, just grabbing him off the street and say, "Come here, I want to talk to you for a few minutes."
Yeah, we were doing that actually. Blaze TV, which of course was founded by Glenn Beck, they went through some transitions a few years ago. And so they brought my podcast onto their network, and they built me this incredibly beautiful studio that way better than anything I ever experienced. And I said, I want it to feel like we're sitting in the living room just having a conversation. And so I had them build a bar, and then we had some recliners there, or just leather chairs, and we sat around having a conversation. And then it's kind of evolved. It's a little more of a redneck news desk at this point, where we're just kind of taking the topics of the day. And fortunately, being a part of the Blaze, I've got great producers that help me put some content together as well. And it's just constantly evolving, but I want people just to kind of feel like we're having a conversation. And sometimes I get pissed off and yell at them a little bit. I'm sitting here, you talk about my dog. I got this is my age. I got a little purse dog now. You mentioned my shepherd a little while ago. Now I got 4 pounds of terror running around. I got all these dogs. I'm just common as shoe leather, man. You never know who's going to pop in, what's going to happen. Sometimes you'll see a dog run across the set, and I just like it that way. And so for me, I hope it's relatable, and if nothing else, at least genuine.
Is that a puppy or a dog?
That's a dog, man. That is a full-blown wiener dog. Like I said, that is 4 pounds of terror. That is Biscuit. I got all these big dogs. I got horses. I got into bucking bulls. We got bucking bulls now. I got a 3-year-old that's going to take the world by storm if he stays healthy. I got these animals everywhere. I can't get a woman to live with me, but the animals seem to come around as long as I'm feeding them.
I was going to say, that's because you feed them regular.
That's right. So who knows, man? That dog right there, if you remember Shelly Luther, she was the Dallas salon owner that decided to open back up. Shelly's a good friend, her and her husband, Tim. And they have these dachshund dogs. And so a friend of mine had one, and he said it came from Shelly. And I called Shelly on the phone. I said, I want one of those dogs. And so 7 months ago, brought that dog home. So it's still sort of a puppy, but about as big as it's going to get. That's where I'm at in life, man. I'm carrying around a purse dog.
Yeah. Hey, you've been working out a little bit too, haven't you? I mean, you look like you're in pretty good shape.
Dude, I through the campaign, I had so much stress that piled up on me. And I joke about it. I say, at this stage in the game, when you're in your late 40s, you become more estrogen than testosterone. And so you put on the belly.
Yeah.
And
wait till your 60s. You haven't seen anything yet.
I mean, you get to a point where I don't know what night sweats are. I just wake up soaking wet in the bed. I get the best sleep when I just go to sleep at night on the toilet and visit the bed 5 times a night. I don't even watch comedy films anymore because I'm afraid I'm going to laugh and blow my catheter out. At this stage, I just said, you know what I got to do? I went to the doctor. He said, you're depleted. He goes, you've been eating trash for a year out of gas stations on the road. He goes, you're depleted. There's no vitamin D. There's no magnesium. There's nothing there. He goes, I would tell you to turn your head and cough, but at this point you have a vagina. So he goes, we got to put you back on the testosterone. And I realized you can't just give yourself a shot of testosterone and that work. You got to actually go to the gym and do something. You got to work out. So little by little, the arthritic, and I can't preach to you, Randy, because I know you got the ailments from all the years in the NFL. But you get the arthritis in the elbows and the knees, and you don't want to do anything. But I've just been making myself do it little by little. And I just when you get to the point where the pants don't fit anymore and you don't really want to go buy any more jeans, because look, I'm at a point in life where if I drive somewhere and I get to the parking lot and there's no parking places, I just go home. I don't even want to go shopping anymore. So I just have to lose the weight. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. You got some new ink too, don't you?
Man, I'm always, I was going to do, I've had most of my upper body's tattooed, from being younger. And, I always tell people, the doctor says you're low T, talking about testosterone. He says you're low T. We got to get you back to high T. I'm like, I don't want to be high T. All the dumb things I did in my life was when I was high T. So maybe low T is where I need to be right now. But I haven't gotten any more tattoos since the first part of COVID when they shut everything down.
Okay.
And
that was just boredom then, right?
Exactly. 100%. I went to it. I did a show in Fort Smith, Arkansas the other day. I have the weirdest fans. They're so good. But I just happened to notice this talking about ink. This guy brought me coloring books. I mean, am I supposed to go to the old folks' home and start coloring books? I mean, who goes to a comedy show and brings a guy coloring books? So, I'm coloring myself, coloring the books. It's basically therapy at this point.
Does he sell pre-chewed food?
Listen, man, as long as they're not bringing me boxes of adult diapers and they're not calling me Joe Biden, I'm okay with it.
Hey, what's in the future for you as far as some of your touring and everything else? I noticed you got another comedy tour that Y'all Shut Up is going to be. Is that kicking off? Is that kicked off?
Yeah, well, what we did is we put an album out called Y'all Shut Up. I went to Nashville, recorded 8 original songs, comedy songs, put it out. It was number 1 on the charts for a while in the comedy category, and did really, really well. So we've been out doing more and more of that music comedy stuff and having a good time with it. I'll continue to do that. I've always said if I can get people to stand still or walk slow, then I'll talk to them, try to entertain them. And as long as people buy tickets and show up, I'll keep going out there. I keep getting on these airplanes or tour buses, and they say, man, you travel a lot. I say, yeah, well, if I go to, whatever, Greenville, South Carolina, they got a check waiting on me. It helps if I go pick it up. So I'll keep doing those things. Hopefully I'll continue doing the Chad Prather show, which was not even a podcast anymore. It's a TV show now that's on 5 times a week. And, just hopefully just continue to influence people. I still try to get in the truck every now and then, as silly as that is, and pontificate a little bit. But the nature of social media has gotten so weird that censorship is so real that people don't even see those things anymore, that you can have 5 million followers and still not get a whole lot of reach anymore, especially if you've ever dabbled in the world of politics and used any of that rhetoric. So, I'm always open to it. We've worked on a project together. I'm sure we'll discuss that. I loved doing that. I'd love to be able to do more of that. Because of my platform, it's opened up so many relationships for me to be friends with people that have had a lot of experience in the world of movies and television. I spent some time in Hollywood writing for sitcoms and selling sitcoms to the networks. And so who knows, what's going to develop out of all of that stuff. I just love to create. And I feel like if I'm getting stagnant, then it's not really, doing a good job of living. So we'll see what the future holds in the days ahead. And hopefully I can keep my mind and not have a stroke and get dementia and start babbling on like Joe.
You mentioned the project we worked on together, that Heroes Among Us. Talk a little bit about that experience for you, because that had to be something that, 0 to 60 and learning like crazy most of the time, right?
Well, and again, it's one thing to be on a stage and you're telling jokes and you're telling stories. I've always been a storyteller. And I did theater in high school, and even though I was a ball player, I did it in college as well. I just enjoyed being on that stage. But this was a different experience. When your producer, Andrew, reached out to me, and it was a big honor, first of all, to be connected with anything that you're connected with, because obviously I've been a longtime fan, and then honored to call you friend. And so but the biggest thing was the mission, the purpose of what this project was all about, because it's an untold story. This is something that a lot of people don't talk about. This issue that goes on with our military, that is, as they come out of the service, we hear about the suicides, we hear about the post-traumatic stress, we hear about the recovery from injuries. What we don't hear about is just the normal day-to-day people who are retiring and they're trying to find a way to make a living and provide for their family, and then just reacclimate into normal civilian life, whatever normal may be. That life doesn't always make sense to them, and there's not a lot of opportunities sometimes that are readily available for them in terms of resources to go find gainful employment and a purpose in life. So this was a story that I don't feel like anybody was telling, and I'm glad you guys were telling it. And you did me a great honor by letting me play that lead character, Mark Allen. And to this day, in my bag, I always carry the dog tags from that shoot. And just a reminder of that. I carry the dog tags and then the little rubber, the silicone wedding ring that I wore in that part. And then, of course, the sad part was COVID hit, and the distribution went crazy, but I'm happy that that's starting to revive, and we've got an opportunity to get this story out there, because I think it's definitely one that not only needs to be told, but I think you guys did a good job in telling it well.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's the right time. Let's put it that way, because there's so much negative, there's so many negative stories right now around the military for a lot of reasons, both military and non-military reasons. But these guys, we owe every single person that's ever served. And you've got people in your family that served. I do. Andrew did. I mean, everybody connected with this had people that have served. And it's something they all have in common is there really wasn't much in the way of what's going on once you get out.
Yeah.
I mean, World War II ended and suddenly 14 million soldiers came home. Where the hell did they all go?
Yeah. Well, and look at what we're up against. You know, I wrote a book that came out in 2020 called "Am I Crazy?" And the subtitle of it is "An Unapologetic Patriot Takes on the Insanity of Today's Woke World." And you know, the woke concept out there has delegitimized so many traditional roles that are out there. You know, masculinity is now toxic. You know, businesses and things that are done by men are called patriarchal. There's been a strong cry for equality. And again, I have no problem with equality, certainly when it comes to opportunities for success that are out there. And we live in the greatest country in the world that provides that opportunity. But suddenly even that's been villainized. And so there is a diminishing not only of masculinity and the role of men, particularly in our country, but there's also been this how do you say it? Almost a alienating of those who are coming out of the military, those who have been in the military, for instance. And again, I blame this woke mob. So the recruitment in the military right now is as low as it was post-Vietnam. When no one liked the military coming home from Vietnam. Everybody was opposed to the military in those days. We know about the protests and what happened. So they're now, the military can't meet its quota right now because, again, it's being run by woke bureaucrats that have progressive ideologies where they're flying a rainbow flag, you know, for the military and it's celebrating Pride Month. Well, here's the thing. The people who are progressively woke, they're not joining the military. Let's face the facts. You have Southern white males that typically join the military. You have Southern black males that join the military. You have Southern Hispanic. And so on and on it goes. They're not recruiting the people from the South. The South is considered toxic now. They're not pushing males anymore because, again, it's the patriarchy. So we're in a real dilemma of the weakening of the U.S. military right now. China and Russia is training for ways to kill us, and we're trying to look more accepting and inclusive. Now, you factor that into the men and women now who are coming out of the military, you know, via retirement, and they're looked at through a certain lens these days, and it's not a favorable one, unfortunately. So if the military itself is not valuing the men and women that they're recruiting, training, and utilizing, then how much more is culture not going to value them when they come out? So this is a valuable message in this regard. We're up against a major ideology that's really hurting the men and women that are in and coming out of our military right now.
Yeah, and I know we're all more than willing to do everything we can to get this project in front of as many people as we can and help as many as we can that are going through this very process, because there are literally every month, you know, tens of thousands that are stepping through that door and going into the rest of their life, as they say. Yeah.
You know, and when we were, you know, you had consultants on set there that were military consultants. And of course, this character is a Marine who's coming out, and his interaction with these other characters, his wife, his child, his fellow service members, as well as, you know, friends back home. But it was interesting because I was not in the military. I come from a military family. You know, I chose to play baseball instead and pursued further degrees. And I didn't go in the military. For me, it just was never really an option. It was a pre-9/11 world, and I never crossed my mind. So I wanted to make sure that we played this role right. And so your consultants were so good at saying, okay, I mean, everything, okay, if I set this helmet on the ground, how do I pick this helmet back up? How would a Marine pick this helmet back up and tuck it under his arm? And so I felt like, you did a great job. The team did a great job of really representing just the nuances of this particular military character, this particular Marine. And I think that matters right now because as a football player, you've seen football movies and you go, no. I mean, like, I hate seeing sports movies most of the time because it's like, that's not reality. Yeah. That's true in every, subset category of humanity, culturally. And it's certainly true of the military. So I was proud that we were able to tell this story in the manner that it was told. And so, it is my hope and prayer, and I want to do everything that I can to get it in front of people of influence and folks out there that can help this story get told, because I think it matters that much. Well, I know I sure appreciate it. And Chad, we got to get going. But want to wish you the world of success coming up and everything you're doing. It seems like can't wait to see when the tour gets near us here in Georgia. With maybe you get a chance to see a Braves game, see a Dogs game. I'm all about it. Go Dogs. I went to Georgia, so go Dogs. We'll see if we can repeat. That's right. All right, Chad. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. We'll see you down the road. Thanks, Randy. All right, man. Well, that was fantastic. I couldn't thank Chad enough. He's obviously really a busy man. You see all the different things he's doing. Want to remind you all how you find this podcast. Always randycross.com. You can get it on Twitter. You can get it on Facebook. You can get it on Instagram. You can get it on all the platforms, including YouTube, where we'd love it if you'd subscribe and like and everything else. But you could always default to randycross.com. All right? That'll do it for season 6, 3rd episode. Right now, let's go out with a little happy trail.